This meeting is being recorded. Hello, my name is Jessie Junko Beardsley. I am the award-winning ethical apparel designer here at Themis and Thread. I also co-own a small gift shop and gallery called Hector Handmade. Both of these businesses I operate out of central New York State in the Finger Lakes region. And I'm honored to be here today on Fashion Revolution Day, if you're watching this in real time, to share with you more about what Fashion Revolution is, my business Themis and Thread, and how we can all work together to be a part of the solution. My businesses are both based in connecting people with products and brands that align with their values. Themis and Thread is born as a sustainable style solution, and Hector Handmade offers locally made gifts and art. So helping people identify and connect with their values through their purchases is important to me because I believe in an educated economy where we are knowledgeable about the money that we are investing because we're using those dollars as casting a vote. So 10 years ago is when Themis and Thread was born, and it was also the beginning of Fashion Revolution. I'm going to share my screen here and take you through a little bit of the history of Fashion Revolution and me and my business. So as I said, if you're watching this in real time, today, April 24th, is Fashion Revolution Day. This is a day where we ask brands who made my clothes. And it's an excellent day to get on social media and to use hashtags and share and connect and to think more about what happens before we get the clothing in our hands to put on our bodies. So I'm going to take you back to before I knew anything about Fashion Revolution. 10 years ago, I was on an epic road trip, and it's really easy to get lost when you're camping in a van, traveling across the country, and to not know what's happening in the world. In 2013, I didn't even have a cell phone. We weren't connected to social media all the time. So the news cycle wasn't something that I was really connected to. And my husband and I traveled in our van, Juicy Lucy, across the country, and we were on our way back up the East Coast in Atlanta in this very house here, and doing some couch surfing, staying with some friends. And I saw the news for the first time in months. And I was positively rocked when I saw something very similar to this news clip.
The death toll continues to rise following the collapse of a building in Bangladesh on Wednesday morning. At least 175, mainly women workers, are now known to have died, with the rescue operation to free many more who are trapped continuing well into Thursday. The 8-story Rana Plaza building just outside the capital, Dhaka, was home to a number of factories supplying Western clothing retailers. More than 1,000 people were injured.
We didn't want to go up to the factory this morning, but the management forced us to go up and said there was no problem with the building. Just after I sat at my table to work, the building just collapsed. I couldn't even leave.
Inside at about 9:10 a.m. the building collapsed, and we have been trapped inside since then, and up to now. It is 10:18 p.m, 11 hours. We were trapped. We did not want to enter the building, but the owners pushed us in to go to work.
Families gathered at a nearby school on Thursday where the bodies were being taken. Many wept as they held up photos, desperately seeking news of their relatives. The Rana Plaza building collapse follows a fire at another factory on the outskirts of Dhaka that killed 112 people in November, and another incident at a factory in January in which 7 people died, raising concerns about worker safety and low wages in Bangladesh.
The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I felt sick to my stomach. I wondered, had I contributed to this? Did I own clothing that was being manufactured in these factories? These images and stories were harrowing. It was obvious that this tragedy had happened in the name of trying to satiate fast fashion appetites in the Western world. On April 24th, 2013, the Rana Plaza factory collapse in Dhaka, Bangladesh became the world's deadliest garment industry incident. 1,138 people were killed and over 2,000 were injured. And it was completely avoidable. This was a wake-up call. I realized how unjust all of this seemed. And I vowed to make a change. With my education and experience in fashion, I felt confident that I could do something. I was reminded of Themis. Perhaps you've seen her image before, commonly seen, seldom heard of, often in courthouses. Themis is the goddess of justice, and she became my muse and my new ethical apparel business's namesake, Themis and Thread. This business started as a micro manufacturer of customizable, handmade, made-to-order fashion created with 100% American-made components. I worked with friends and local celebrities and started selling my organic cotton collection in art markets and small venues here. And I was really honored to be producing something that was an alternative to fast fashion and fast fashion. So I was really digging deeper and learning more. And this terrible tragedy inspired that. And it inspired this business. And I kept digging and I learned more. And there's tons of these videos out here, but this one outlines a little bit more of the full scope of all of the issues that are behind the fashion industry.
The world consumes 80 billion pieces of new clothing each year. This is fast fashion. Companies convincing you to buy clothes you don't need. Fashion is big business. Globally, the industry brings in $1.2 trillion each year, $250 billion coming from the US alone. Fast fashion clothes are cheap and look like your favorite designer clothes. But we wear fast fashion garments less than 5 times and keep them on average for only 35 days. So how did we get here? In the early 1900s, clothing prices dropped as mass production ramped up. Garment factories began to open in developing countries, allowing companies in the United States to increase profits by using cheap labor. Many factory workers are not paid a living wage and work in dangerous conditions, and child labor definitely still exists. Aside from the human dangers, the environment is also taking a hit. The clothing industry is the second highest polluter of clean water. The global cotton industry uses more pesticides than any other crop in the world. This poisons farmers and contaminates drinking water. Fossil fuels are used to make polyester, which is now the most commonly used fiber in our clothing, and it can take hundreds of years to break down. Over 70 million trees are logged every year and turned into fabrics like rayon. Coal burned to operate those factories pollutes the air, and the toxic runoff from those factories can make rivers too dangerous for human contact. The average American is now generating 82 pounds of textile waste every year. Some clothes are donated and some are recycled, but eventually end up in landfills. Our constant need for new things and instant gratification has changed our outlook on clothes. What we used to cherish for their quality have become disposable items that we replace next month. Fast fashion is a compromise that comes at a huge human, social, and environmental cost. It's time to recognize the scale of the world's fashion waste and work in collaboration to reduce it by being more conscious about how our clothes are made and where they end up. Start the conversation, incite change, reclaim.
So you can see the problems are vast and intertwined and international. Themis and Thread was my answer, and I worked really hard to be sure that no one was harmed in any part of the production process for my collections, including the environment. And for my efforts, I was twice recognized nationally as an environmental and social leader in fashion. I won Green America's People and Planet Award and Green Festival's Most Exciting New Brand Award. My business model has changed a lot over the years. I am not currently in production and manufacturing as much, but one thing that has remained is that I'm passionate about shining the light on the ugly truths behind the fashion industry. One of the not so ugly truths is that clothing connects us. It helps us express our identity. It protects us physically, literally, and it literally touches all of us all day, every day. Clothing comes from a lot of places. Maybe you've shopped with one of these brands. Maybe you think that this is where clothing comes from, but really it's coming from all over the world. And not just the clothing itself, but every single component that goes into clothing manufacturing is coming from a different place. So, for example, a pair of jeans is literally made everywhere. The cotton could be grown in Pakistan. The denim could be woven, and the thread and the zipper could be manufactured in China. The garment then could be cut and sewn in Bangladesh and then sold in the United States. So if you look at those components, the fabric and the notions, and then you think about what the fabric is. This diagram in the center here shows that most of the textiles that we are wearing is actually polyester or a poly product, and that is an oil product. Poly anything is made from oil, or even if it is recycled plastics. So it takes a fiber, which certainly can be cotton, wool, or another cellulose-based product, and it is spun into yarns, which are then either knit or woven. And then you have fabric that are then cut and sewn. So every single component can be coming from a different place. When I was sourcing the supply chains for Themis and Thread, I was very specific about making sure that all of that was coming from the United States, which is incredibly rare and incredibly difficult to achieve. And unlike a lot of other industries, sewing and garment construction is relatively untouched by technology. You still need skilled workers, and 8% of garment workers are female. And where clothing is made is certainly mostly in Asia. China is by far the largest manufacturer. You can see Bangladesh and Vietnam and India are pretty high up there. The United States and Mexico way over here and down here. It's just a very small contributor to clothing exports. So we need to think about the clothing being traveling all across the world before it gets to us, and that carbon footprint, but also the laws and regulations in these other countries. So if you think about what a skilled laborer should make, minimum wage is what legally a state or country is required to pay their employees. The difference between a minimum wage and a living wage is that a living wage really takes into consideration lifestyle, the cost of goods and services in a certain area, what somebody needs to be comfortable in that community, to be happy and healthy. And this varies a lot from place to place. So this is just an example of Tompkins County, which is here in New York State. And you can see our minimum wage is $14.20, and the living wage is considered to be $16.61. So that's 86%. We're 86% there with that minimum wage, which actually is pretty darn good. And let's just take a look at the living wage versus the minimum wage in Asian countries. You can see China's only at 46%. Bangladesh is at 19%. And what this does is sets up room for a lot of inequity, and it puts people in positions to work themselves as long and as hard as they can without ever even really making enough money to live a comfortable, healthy life. Offshoring to these countries gives us like the opportunity that some companies consider it as an opportunity to exploit the workers. There's a lot of issues that come with the fashion industry, and I lump them into three main categories. The first one being emotional. The social side effects of fashion advertising leave most of us feeling really bad about ourselves, wanting to fit in, feeling like we need fashion to be cool, that we need to all look the same. And truthfully, what I love most about fashion is the opportunity to soothe yourself with it and the opportunity to express yourself with it. Being uniquely you through your style is a way to be more sustainable, successful, and healthy. Unrealistic ideals and lack of diversity in fashion hurts us all. We're different colors and shapes and sizes, not just skinny or buff and white. If you take a look at what most fashion models look like, most female models weigh between 101 and 125 pounds, and then 151 to 175. It just isn't realistic. And we're definitely all emotionally damaged by this. The environmental tolls that fashion has placed on the planet are really, really horrifying. The toxic dyes and finishes embedded into oil-derived or pesticide-laden materials is definitely polluting our entire planet. Factories overproduce poorly made products. As I showed earlier, the cutting on a floor, the cutting room floor, you cut out pattern pieces and there's tons of waste just right there. And mass production isn't really made for anybody. It's made for an unrealistic ideal, and fast fashion is made to be thrown away and replaced monthly. So climate change being the biggest looming threat to society, you can see that 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions are caused by clothing and footwear production. And that might not sound like a lot, but this is more than all international flights and maritime shipping combined. So that's an enormous amount that we are contributing to the environmental impact. And also, like, every time you wash clothing with any poly or plastic recycled fiber content, you're contributing microplastics to the water systems. And it's just a cycle full of toxicity. In my opinion, the worst problems in fashion are ethical, and they revolve around child and slave labor. Exploitation in countries with limited or no labor laws is rampant. Garment workers are at the bottom of the financial disbursement, yet they do the actual creating, and they suffer risk to their health and safety in factories and situations like that of the Rana Plaza factory, which was a situation in an 8-story factory where this building was visibly crumbling and everybody knew it. And they just kept making people go to work in those conditions. So it can take a garment worker 18 months to earn what a fashion brand CEO makes on their lunch break. Many garment workers earn less than $3 a day. There are some companies that are worse offenders than others. These are brands that I would recommend avoiding. There are some companies that are making exceptional changes to the industry, and these are brands that I would recommend investing in. Greta Thunberg is one of my personal heroes, and in this quote, she is speaking to the climate crisis. We live in a strange world where we think we can buy or build our way out of a crisis that has been created by buying and building things, from her book, No One Is Too Small. So I see this as entirely relatable to capitalism and mass production of fast fashion. We are buying and selling clothing that has created this enormous problem, and we can't buy and sell our way out of this fast fashion problem. Maybe you've heard of the term greenwashing. This is a marketing tactic to capitalize on people who want to do better. So 62% of Gen Z prefers to purchase from ethical and sustainable fashion brands, and they're being targeted, and these brands are convincing us that they're sustainable without actually being sustainable. None of these words really mean anything, and these brands are lying to us because there are no industry approved definitions for words like sustainable or organic or eco-friendly. Much like the FDA has certified organic and non-GMO standards, there are a few standards and ways to cross-check a brand's efforts. And something like GOTS certified and Fair Trade certified are ways that you can know and trust that something has gone into really understanding that this product is being made sustainably. A certified B Corporation is a wonderful thing to find because that means that that business has a triple bottom line where people, planet, and profits are all equally valued. Becoming a certified B Corporation is a difficult and complicated thing. So anybody who has gone through that process is definitely a brand that you can trust. Now up here, I have an image of purchasing carbon offsets for my business. And that was something that Themis and Thread did to offset anything that we were putting out into the environment. Good On You is an excellent app where you can search for brands, and they have a rating system, and they explain why brands are rated a certain way. You can, if you can't find a brand, you can recommend that they research a brand for you. And if you see a brand that you really are just heartbroken or wish that they would do better, you can reach out directly to them. And that's what Fashion Revolution Day is all about, is reaching out directly to brands as the consumer, as the person who is paying them, as the person who is helping their profits climb, and asking them to do better. I like to find brands that are made in the United States, not because I think that the United States is the best place to have clothing manufactured, but because it's close and there are labor laws, and you can check what's going on in an American factory way easier than you can check and trust what's going on in an Asian country. Handmade goods are also something that I find to be really helpful when you're trying to understand what has gone into this product, because handmade is often also heart made. We have seen time and time and again that the fashion industry is not going to self-police itself. So what we need is legislation. And here in New York State, we actually have an incredible proposed bill, the New York Fashion Act, and it could definitely use some support. So this would hold fashion retailers accountable to standardized environmental and social due diligence policies with financial repercussions, which will benefit those who are hurt in this process. This is a groundbreaking piece of legislation that was introduced by Tompkins County legislator here in New York State, Dr. Anna Kellis. And there are some really amazing leaders in this industry, like Dr. Anna Kellis, who who don't just talk the talk, but they walk the walk. And Dr. Anna Kellis did it down the aisle in a vintage silk gown that I made for her. And these are some other amazing leaders that Themis and Thread has worked with. Local teacher, Ms. Crawford, in her upcycled and vintage wedding gown, diversity leader Nicola Fabe in organic cotton, and fashion activist Lillian Pagoda in one of our recycled t-shirts. So these are the places where you can find me and learn more. And I would love to share with you my action guide that you can find at my link tree. And it will look something like this on the left. And if you click that Join the Revolution tab, it'll take you here to get a full manifesto and action guide emailed directly to you, where you can sign lots of petitions and figure out ways to participate in legislation. And today is the day to really take action. So I am going to leave that link in the description here, but you can find my link tree also on my website and more. On my website, Themis and Thread, where I really market my specific brand of spirited style support. These are the ways that folks can work with me. Fashion Therapy is a one-on-one course that I developed to help people leverage the power of personal style as a communication tool and healing modality. I believe that fashion is a force of good, and that reclaiming our feminine image is an incredibly rebellious and powerful way for us to contribute to real solutions. Wardrobe repair is an a la carte service that is very high demand, and I usually have a waiting list for, but this is just a way to help you lengthen the life of your clothing. Alterations, repairs. I also do wardrobe assessments and some personal shopping. I create custom fashion, so having something made just for you and your body is such a special and unique experience that I love offering. I do still offer ready to wear. As I said, the Themis and Thread business model has changed over the years, and I'm not doing an enormous amount of manufacturing anymore, but I do have some ethical sustainable tees, and some really gorgeous vintage clothing. And clean beauty, I think, is an important part of the sustainable style story. What we're putting on our bodies as far as clothing and makeup and skincare is affecting the rest of the world. And it's really important to be a part of an educated economy and to just know what is going into these products. So I promote some really special clean beauty brands also. And I love connecting with people about all of these topics. We can chat one-on-one about it. We can figure out what is the best way for us to stay connected. And as an award-winning ethical apparel designer, I'm asked all the time, what are my tips to help people have a more sustainable wardrobe? And researching what your purchases are before you're making them, asking questions of the brand specifically, go to social media and use that hashtag today, who made my clothes, and tag a brand that you want to know the truth about. Searching for things like GOTS certified organic cotton, fair trade companies, American made, handmade products. Shopping secondhand, thrifting is a wonderful way to reduce your carbon footprint with fashion. And swapping instead of shopping, having a clothing swap with your friends, attending a clothing swap, recycling your clothing. Here in New York State, we have an incredible business model in Thrifty Shopper that is a central New York State franchise. You can search Thrifty Shopper and see where the closest one is near you if you're lucky enough to be in New York. And this company actually recycles fiber waste. So things like holey socks and ripped up jeans, those can be turned into fiber fill. And there are lots of other recycling projects like that, like Blue Jeans Go Green, which is something that I linked to in my Join the Revolution action guide that you can get your hands on today. Shopping, searching for natural fibers when you're shopping for clothing, cotton, linen, silk. They have a smaller carbon footprint and they last longer. Buying the best quality that you can afford, searching for timeless fashion pieces rather than trendy pieces so that you can continue re-wearing these things season and season again. Upcycling clothing, making your own clothing, mending, washing your clothing properly and infrequently. When you wash something in hot water, the heat can be damaging to the life cycle, and putting anything in the dryer with elastic is a good way to kill it quick. So anything that's important to you, anything that's stretchy, anything that has a screen print on it, those are all good things to avoid putting in the dryer, and things to maybe just like not dry as often. So if you can hang things on the line, if you can spot clean some of your clothing even and not put it in the wash all the way if it isn't actually soiled. My number one tip for having a more sustainable wardrobe is to love your body and your personal style and to express yourself through fashion, because loved clothes last. And when you know how to connect your personality with your personal style, you're going to be excited about your clothes, and you're going to wear your clothes more often, and you're going to take care of them with more pride, and you're just going to show up in the world more powerfully, and that's going to help you be more successful. And of course, join the revolution. Join the fashion revolution today. Get social, get my guide. These are my top tips for having a more sustainable wardrobe. And my most passionate message is that you can change the system and still look and feel great. In fact, the better you feel, the better you look. And the better you look, the better you feel. So this is a beautiful cycle that keeps just circling back on itself. And I would love to talk more with you about this and all of the really juicy things that go into figuring out who you are and what your style is, because that is the ultimate way to really show up powerfully and to help your clothing last and to help you make a difference in the world. So on Wednesday at 9 EST, I will be speaking with Sandy in her group, Mindful Confidence for Women. And I'm going to be talking about using color and fashion to conjure confidence and using it to honor your unique, special, and powerful spirit, because that's really what it's all about for me here with you. So as I said, Themis and Threads business model has changed a lot over the years, and I have really gone from sales into service. And I certainly plan to return to creating collections, and I will never, ever stop creating art fashion pieces and custom fashion pieces. But right now, my focus is you. My focus is helping people show up powerfully to affect the change that they're here to affect. And the way that fashion can support you in that is so important and so vital. And the terrible issues behind fashion should not stop us from wanting to do this. They should actually propel us to want to do better and to do more and to show up more powerfully. So again, my name is Jessie Junko Beardsley. You can find me at themisandthread.com and on Facebook and Instagram. And I hope that you'll join me soon.